All right. I see folks are just joining, so we'll just give it another 30 seconds or so before we get started. All right, we can go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this briefing on California's organic marketplace. My name is Leticia Benador, and I'm a policy research specialist at California Certified Organic Farmers, or CCOF. CCOF represents 3,000 organic farmers, ranchers, and food manufacturers across California. I will hand it over to my co-host, Anna, for a quick introduction.
Great. Hi, my name is Anna Larson, and I'm a policy associate with the California Climate and Agriculture Network, CalCAN, and we're a coalition of sustainable and organic farming organizations that advocate for state and federal policies to ensure the resilience of California farms and ranches to climate change. And so before we get started, I have some brief housekeeping, which is that this session is being recorded and there will be a Q&A at the end. So please submit your questions via the Q&A box throughout today's session. We will be posting 2 fact sheets with more information in the chat. And I'm going to hand it back to Leticia for a brief overview before we dive into the panel.
Thanks. So in today's briefing, we will learn about California's organic marketplace and how it provides economic opportunities for farmers. Organic is an ecological method of growing food that is backed by federal law, and organic certification provides access to this market. Farmers today are operating on thinner margins than ever. Over 50% of California's farms operate with net losses, and more farms are going out of business every year. More farmers are turning to organic as a strategy to save and grow their businesses because of the market opportunities for certified organic products. However, transitioning to organic is hard, particularly for underserved farmers who have limited access to resources needed to succeed in California agriculture. To address this, CCOF is sponsoring AB 2499, authored by Assemblymember Mainshine, which provides underserved farmers financial and technical assistance to transition to organic. You are going to hear today about the opportunities that organic provides for California's farmers. I'd like to welcome our first panelist, Ernesto Soto from Koch Farms. Ernesto, thank you for being with us.
Hello, thank you for having us here. Well, my name's Ernesto. I'm the grower liaison at Koch Farm. I've been in the agricultural industry for about 8 years, and it's been a great experience. I've had the privilege to work with over 100 growers, some successes, some failures. And it's been just an inspiration helping small family farms find access to the marketplace and a place for us to show the world, or the country at least, their wonderful produce. Koch Farm is a shipper. Koch Farm, we're a shipper grower located in San Juan Bautista, California. We have been organic since 1981. We used to be listed as CC001 on the CCOF certificates. That's Central Coast. So I think we were certified we were the first certification. Just a little trivia right there for you guys. And we've been growing organic since then. In 2005, several local growers, some of the mainstays in organic for our region, farmers, they reached out to Christine and Dale Koch and they asked us to start marketing their product for them. This was Jeff Larkey from Route 1, Joe Tanasha over at JTF Farms, Rodoni, the Rodoni family and their organic program, artichokes and Brussels sprouts. So we've been working with those and a few more growers. We've been working with them since 2005. And our program has grown exponentially, where now we represent over 90 growers. It's all seasonal. So, but during the season, we do tend to work with upwards of 70 growers. Myself and my co-worker, we call these growers every day, try to forecast and crop plan their product so that we can bring it in and so that our sales team can go ahead and offer it to the marketplace. Besides the ecological benefits of organic farming, growing organic is an important strategy for farmers because it is a developing market and sector that has not fully matured. There are so many new areas that organics is going into, which gives growers a multitude of options for growing commodities and specialty items. That's one of the specialties for Coke Farm. We love doing specialty items, lemon jalapenos, okra, all organically grown from all our growers. You can probably see the baby white turnips, the Tokyo turnips behind me. That's some of the specialty items that we do. And as the market develops, there is an increasing customer demand, which makes this option economically interesting for our growers. Because as Leticia mentioned, the thinner and thinner margins that the growers are seeing. Organic growing holds a higher market value with our customers willing to pay for organics. And with advances in the technology and methods, growers can count on higher yields and better quality for their organic produce. That's what we strive for as we grow. I think that Coke Farms, our key strength lies in that we offer the infrastructure for our growers and the experience to access markets. We offer pre-cooling services, cooling services, and marketing from our sales team. Our sales staff's on site, and they can do quality. We assess every grower's quality every day so that we can send the appropriate quality and or consistency to the right grower or to basically fill our customers' needs. That's what our strength is. It's just like, it's an easy, our growers meet our requirements, which is an organic certificate, food safety audits, and insurance for their product. And then that's part of our intake forms. And then from there, they pack in our label and we offer it to our customers. And we have customers across the entire breadth of the entire scope, from a single restaurant to major retailers. Part of the actions, as I was saying, that we do in supporting our growers is working with groups like ALBA, Agricultural and Land-Based Training Association, which is a nonprofit agricultural training program that acts as an incubator. So, I mean, they're really literally growing new growers for us to pick from. And so it's just so interesting watching all these growers come in and watching their businesses grow. As they graduate ALBA, they turn into alumni, and we're still working with some of them. Some of them grow from like a 5-acre ranch to a 15, 20. It just depends on their business acumen or how, it just depends on their ability and how much work they're put in. For the most part, 90% of our growers identify as Latinx in our partnership. And we do find that they do have they are underserved in the sense that since they buy smaller quantities to produce their produce and quantities of inputs like fertilizer, hoses, since they're producing in such a smaller scale, they tend to pay a higher market price. So that which cuts into their margins. And part of the stuff that we do is we try to aggregate all our growers so that we can reduce some of that stress from them. Yeah, I think that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ernesto. That was fantastic. Thanks for kicking us off. And now we'll go over to Jonathan.
Hi there. My name is Jonathan Kitchens. I am the purchasing manager at Earl's Organic Produce. We're a wholesale produce distributor in San Francisco. We've been on the San Francisco produce market for about 34 years, and we sell 100% certified organic produce. Our delivery range is roughly to the Oregon border, east to Reno, and south into the Central Coast and Santa Barbara, basically anywhere where we can get to in a day. Our customer base is mostly independent retailers. Think co-ops, small chains like Oliver's in Sonoma, Nugget in the Valley. Again, all the co-ops across Northern California. We buy from about 400 different growers and vendor groups. We do not necessarily serve the bigger retailers as they have grown big enough to have their own distribution centers, but we do market a few items to those guys. Let's see here, during the COVID, we occupied about half of the original Whole Foods distribution center, and our neighbor did not make it through COVID. They were a food service related distribution center. So we've grown. There was an initial panic buying during COVID, but the demand has still sustained, and we've taken over that space, and we've grown to about 100,000 square feet. We're building, we just completed 3 additional tropical banana ripening rooms. So we have 6 rooms now. That means we can ripen up to 6 entire containers or loads a week of bananas. Again, always 100% organic. What else? Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. So I think opportunities lie, a lot of our existing small organic focused customers are expanding. A lot of folks from the Bay have moved out in the last 2 years across Central Valley and into the foothills. So co-ops like Briar Patch in Grass Valley, they're expanding to another location in Auburn. Sacramento Natural Foods is looking at another location. Good Earth in Marin is expanding. Oliver's in Sonoma County is expanding. But really the opportunity is in what we call crossover stores. So stores that have typically been focused on conventional organic with a smaller organic set, maybe 80% conventional, 20% organic. Most of those stores are seeing really rapid increase in demand on the organic side. And there's some learning curve as the organic procurement is very different than conventional. We're really relationship based. There's existing sort of markets and market values. And the conventional side, a lot of produce is sold open ticket. So it can be basically whatever you can get for it at the retail, you work back and you peel your margins off, and the grower is often left with a pretty small return. So really building out resilient vendor and grower bases to cover any kind of growth. We're seeing growth in a lot of specific crops like avocados, figs, a lot of citrus varieties, the new grape varieties. Another big opportunity for growth is culturally specific and relevant produce items that are in Asian markets, Latinx markets, that are often not grown certified organic. We're seeing increase in demand for things like a lot of the mylan, bok choys, gailan, even epazote and yucca root. So a lot of younger folks that have connection to different cultures and shop at these markets are looking for organic, and there's big holes. And a lot of that stuff we can grow in this perfect environment in California. A lot of it is drought tolerant already. It's coming from pretty hardy regions in Central and South America and Southeast Asia. And a lot of Hmong growers and Latinx growers are already figured out how to grow it all over the Central Valley, Central Coast, conventional. So we can support them in their transitions would be a big need for organic growers. Absolutely are there. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. That was fascinating. So now we will turn over to Kristen.
Thank you very much. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you for inviting me to join this panel today. My name is Kristen Kiesel. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Agriculture and Resource Economics at UC Davis. And I both do research that is really focused around how to promote healthier and more sustainable food products. So I really look at the economics of food, both from the perspective, what do we know about consumers, their consumer preferences, but then also from the perspective of supply chain issues, all of the challenges that were already highlighted along the supply chain. And then I also am very active in teaching, among other things. I teach cooperative business enterprise class, and I teach a marketing class to also educate and get kind of new talent into the area of the product industry, but also into government and industry more generally. What I wanted to focus on here in the 5 minutes is really give a little bit of a broader perspective and anchor the discussion of organic and some of the challenges that Letizia has mentioned, and then also some of the things that came up in Jonathan's and Ernesto's comments here already in this broader topic of increasing consumer demand for value-added products. So if we think about the development over really decades, we see that agricultural production practices and post-harvest technology continue to advance, and they have resulted in the fact that the foods that we consume are increasingly marketed along value-added quality dimensions. And organic is one of those value-added quality dimensions, but by no means the only one. We're not the only one that consumers are looking for. And so this is really where I want to anchor that. Generally defined as products that have been altered or packaged in a way that is not required for transportation before being sold. These goods typically demand higher prices, and so they have, as we heard here, the potential to increase revenues for farmers, especially small and medium-sized farmers, potentially farmers from diverse backgrounds. To put this in context, however, why we've seen the number of farmers markets and farm-to-table restaurants increase over the last 2 decades. Direct-to-consumer sales actually continue to be a small segment of the overall retail market. And importantly, total sales in the direct-to-consumer market have actually kind of stagnated. So overall, in the entire retail environment, we see increased product differentiation and market concentration. Jonathan already mentioned that some of these really big retailers have their own distribution centers. Then he mentioned working with food co-ops and some of these smaller distribution centers. So the majority of the sales happen in these traditional retail settings. And in these traditional retail settings, we see that especially the larger grocery chains and these super centers have started to aggressively promote value-added products, and that includes organic. So there's some potential sale there. So the kind of takeaway from this market setting is then, especially in the retail environment, we also have very significant information asymmetries between producers and consumers. So the majority of consumers are very much removed from the growing process. So we see this more complicated growing process, but really a limited knowledge of a lot of those details. What that amounts to that is being able to successfully market value-added products and organic products specifically in these kind of new market settings will critically depend on both identity-preserving marketing systems, and so we've heard some of this here, but also importantly on the compelling disclosure of information to consumers. And so what I want to do here, focus a little bit on the data and share some of the insights of my ongoing research that you might find useful. So here I just pulled out some of the data and the information from 2 studies that I'm currently working on. So I've done quite a bit of research on organic and consumer perceptions. On organic, we're still working in better understanding consumers' preferences and relating them directly to marketing strategies, especially for small and medium-sized farmers and food entrepreneurs in this complex market. And so the first study where I'm showing some insights is a study where we really looked at could we promote organic transition with potentially introducing an organic transition label, and what would be the impact of that on the market overall. Here we did a study, a consumer survey where we really reached out and we looked at how would transitional organic fit within the other sustainability labels already in the market. And so you see here a variety of those labels. When you see in this first table here that consumers have varying familiarity with the different labels, or understand some of the differences in the ways that these products are currently marketed there. And so you see that USDA Organic has a relatively high recognition and kind of same high recognition with local, but introducing a new label, for instance, certified transitional, to help potentially farmers in this transition period would require significant education on the consumer side. What we then kind of did is we said, well, how does the relatively ranking or the perception of consumers' quality change if we remind consumers and give them the exact definitions? And so that's what you see in this next table. And so what we see, this is the quality rankings that consumers have post-label definitions. So I'm not showing you the ones before, but I want to highlight that if we give consumers the exact definition, the products that are benefiting are all of the certified products, including organic. And you also see here that organic ranks the highest among all of those, especially post providing the exact definition. So that's kind of the takeaway there. Then we wanted to relate that further, and this is in another study that I've done, specifically focusing on local and focusing on marketing opportunities for small and medium-sized farmers, as well as food entrepreneurs in the context of this increased demand for local products. And this is important because if you ask consumers, the highest awareness and recognition right now among over 16 kind of quality dimensions that fall into value added in a study, for instance, that Nielsen did, is currently around local, yet it's not really clear what consumers mean with local. And so we did a study there to try to see how can we communicate this added value to consumers. The first thing to note there, I want you to look at this graph that we have in the on my side, the right upper corner. On your side, I guess it would be probably mirror image, the left upper corner. And we ask consumers what their perceived meaning of local is. This is in collaboration with 2 food co-ops that have a very clear definition of local based on distance. And so what I want you to take away here, this is using a lot of insights from behavioral economics, that the highest association, or the most likely meaning that consumers associate with local, is actually small farm, organic, and high quality, higher than each of them individually, but also higher than the actual definition, which is based on distance here. So that's kind of the first thing to take away. Then we looked more closely, do consumers perceive local as a complement or a supplement? And so we see that local and organic. So we see that local and organic in consumers' perception is actually complementary. So their willingness to pay, so this is what you see here on the lower corner, actually is slightly higher when they think of adding local on top of organic than adding local on top of conventional. So that's kind of a good, oops, I'm here in this middle graph. This is where you see that it's slightly higher. Here, this first graph that I mentioned is just highlighting again that there is a higher willingness to pay if consumers know the exact definition of local. I'm sorry, I got a little ahead of myself there. Then I wanted to contrast that with one additional piece of information before I kind of wrap up, and then also give you time to ask any follow-up questions here. And that is, while you see that organic with a specific definition actually has a lot of potential, there is, as I said, this kind of disconnect between what consumers know and what producers know. And so if we put that into context and we ask consumers kind of what is their willingness to pay based on the background, we see that the label definition might not be the most effective way to communicate that added value to the consumer. So that's what you see in this last graph. So while for consumers that have a farmer background, being able to speak to a farmer and have kind of these personal storytelling might not be as important for consumers that aren't necessarily as well informed. That is hugely important. So kind of the takeaway message that I want to present here today is that if we think about advertising and marketing, any of the value-added products, but specifically organic and organic having a lot of potential, even with all of these other labels, that it will take both informative and persuasive marketing, the way we think about it. So really creating a message strategy that offers meaning to the consumer and captures their attention, especially at point of purchase. So what that means, it means that we have to ensure access to retail markets, and that we need to support especially these small producers in branding their unique story and allowing them also then to capture the attention at the point of sale, the sales promotion, with point of sale advertising and marketing, so that they can compete in those complex markets. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen. And now we will go over to our final panelist, Megan.
All right, thank you. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, can everyone see that? All right, so I'm Megan Debates, the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Organic Trade Association. I'm going to give you kind of a high-level overview about some of the key statistics and what we're seeing in the organic market right now and opportunities. So just a little bit about OTA. We were founded in 1985. We're the largest membership-based business trade association representing organic products in North America. So we have over 9,500 farms and businesses that we represent across 50 states. What's unique about us compared to other agricultural commodity trade associations is that we do represent the entire supply chain. So all the different organic crops like grains, dairy, produce, and we also represent certifiers, processors, distributors, retailers. So really the whole gamut, and our membership is pretty diverse. So we have General Mills as a member. They do organic and conventional. We have companies like Organic Valley that have always been organic. So we have a really, broad membership that really is reflective of where the organic market is today and where it's going. And then our overall mission is to promote and protect organic with a unifying voice from farm to marketplace. So every year, OTA conducts an organic industry survey. It's national scale and it's widely cited everywhere, all over the news media and by USDA. So our most recent data is from 2020, and unfortunately, our new survey is coming out in a few weeks, so I'm not allowed to share the new data, but I can give you some insights on what to expect when the new industry survey is released. So this is from 2020, and the organic sector is now $62 billion sector in annual sales in the US. We did see a huge spike in growth during the COVID period. And so that is pretty unusual. I would expect that growth is going to be a lot less in the next year. And the reason why is 12.8% is pretty strong, was because of the pandemic and pantry stocking and consumers having to spend more at the grocery store. So organic is largely bought at the retail level. Our markets are pretty underdeveloped when it comes to restaurants and institutional purchasing. So we weren't as severely impacted as some of the more conventional produce, for example, that distributes through Sodexo, where all that food was sort of, that part of the industry was really shut down and impacted. And because organic isn't served in hospitals and schools as much as conventional because of the price point, it was really actually an opportunity for organic because consumers were purchasing at the grocery store. But we still have strong growth, even if you look at the average, like 6 to 4% over the last couple of years. That is still double the overall growth of the food market. So the rest of the food market's at 2 to 3%. Organic has always experienced double that growth and more. So it's still a really amazing opportunity and growing sector. So I'm going to focus here on produce because this is one of the categories that is, first of all, it's the most popular organic category. People start purchasing organic in the fresh produce aisle, and that's primarily because of concerns over pesticide residues. So they start with produce. They also prioritize dairy and meat and poultry. But we also see more consumers now moving into the middle aisles and buying processed organic products. But produce still remains our strongest category, and that we saw strong growth in produce during the pandemic, and we expect that to continue to be a strong point for us. And then beverages, oddly enough, is people are really into their beverages, and organic beverages are spiking. So I thought, and condiments as well. So, but we did see a lot of behavioral shifts during the pandemic that we think will last with consumers. So the fact that more people were cooking at home, using more of their food budget at the grocery store rather than outside of the home. People that were able to weather sort of the economic impacts of the pandemic were spending more of their disposable income on food at the grocery store than they might have previously done, because they, weren't going out to restaurants, weren't traveling or going to entertainment venues. So people were really taking comfort in the fact that they can treat themselves to some higher end products, premium products at the grocery store. In addition to the cooking, which we think consumers will continue to cook more at home and spend more of their budget at the grocery store, people really valued their health during the pandemic. So wanting to have a strong immune system and connecting the nutrition and the food that they eat to their immune system. So buying a lot of fresh product, buying organic, to strengthen their immune system. And again, we think that's going to be a lasting behavioral shift with consumers as we get out of the pandemic. So produce, and again, I focus on produce because it's our highest category, but also it's the category where organic in California shines, because California is the largest organic produce producer. So 36% of the entire organic market is fresh produce, fruits and vegetables. And at this point, produce is also the largest penetration category that we have. So 15% of all produce sold in the United States is organic. The second highest category, just to give you an idea, is dairy, and dairy is at 8%. So produce, organic produce remains strong. It's still a growing sector. Again, during the pandemic, we saw a huge spike in frozen fruits and vegetables as people were cooking and wanted that convenience of being able to quickly put together meals. So that's an interesting growth opportunity that we saw. We are experiencing supply chain constraints, as most of agriculture is. And so we also do a survey of our members where we ask about sourcing raw materials and ingredients. And there usually is some constraints, and manufacturers do have issues sourcing organic raw materials. But if you look at the survey results, you know, in 2020, it was about 40%. Now, right now, 80% of manufacturers are saying that they're going to have difficulty in securing organic raw materials in the next year. So it really is becoming a pinch point. Some other pinch points within the organic sector are with the livestock industry. So, you know, you'll hear this from dairy producers and poultry producers in California, is it's really hard right now to source organic livestock feed. We've always had a shortage domestically and relied on imports from other countries, but the price has spiked. We don't have enough production happening in the US to meet that. Livestock have to be fed non-GMO organic feed. So that's one area where we're seeing some difficulties, and that's going up to the farmer level where they're you know, experiencing some challenges there that impact their bottom line. So organic in California, obviously, the US is the largest market in the world overall for organic, and California is the largest market for organic in the US, probably one of the largest markets in the world. So it ranks #1 in organic production, so that comes as no surprise. There's now over 5,000 organic farms and businesses certified in the state of California. The recent USDA organic survey showed that California organic commodity sales increased by 27% from 2017 to 2019, which is the most recent USDA data. And then California, most counties in California are what we call organic hotspots. So these are counties where there's high levels of organic production next to neighboring counties where there's also high levels of organic production. So in other parts of the country, there's cold spots in the Southeast, but California is primarily one giant organic hotspot. And then California, of course, in organic acreage, it's more than 20% of the organic acreage is in California. And the top crops for organic in the state of California are berries, chicken, milk, grapes, you know, specialty crops, lettuce, but there's still, again, room for growth. And then Kristen kind of talked a little bit about consumer perception of organic. And we recently worked with Edelman, which is a public relations firm. Every year they release a widely cited study called the Consumer Trust Barometer about food and ag. And we commissioned them to do a specific study on organic and consumer perception of organic. And it was international, so we were able to get non-US citizens to participate as well. So globally, but the majority of the people that took the survey were US. So what they found is that most Americans have many of the same concerns that are actually encompassed in the core values of organic. So concerns about, you know, 80%, around 80% of consumers in the US are either very concerned or somewhat concerned about the use of chemicals in farming practices. They're concerned about the treatment of farm workers and those that work in food processing facilities. They're concerned about the environmental impact of the food and ag industry, and they're concerned about the treatment of animals. So a lot of the use of GMOs still. So that's, a lot of these are already encompassed in the organic label, and that is what is, I think, a strong suit of organic, is that it's not a single attribute label, it's a system. All toxic chemicals and pesticides are prohibited in organic. There's animal welfare standards. Organic has always been non-GMO. There's environmental requirements such as, you know, crop rotations, increasing biodiversity, making sure that your soil is healthy, cover cropping. So we really, when we talk about, you know, the consumer appeal of organic, we really want organic to be that one-stop shop, because there are all these single attribute labels that you're seeing in the marketplace, which gets confusing. We call it sort of the NASCAR effect, where you go into the grocery store and you look at a, you know, a product and it's got like 5 different labels on it. Organic was really meant to encompass what consumers want, and it's highly trusted and recognizable by consumers. So we know that it's been around for a few decades now at a national scale. And what sets it apart from other private market claims is that it's the only third-party certified food label that's overseen and enforced by the US government, USDA. So that is its strength. Consumers really trust that. It's transparent. They know that when they're buying organic, it encompasses strong standards. The other thing that I will say around opportunities is obviously there's opportunities for growth in the procurement sector. So USDA is looking at increasing organic purchasing in their nutrition programs. So getting organic into school lunches, into hospitals, into institutions. The US government is the largest purchaser of food. There's so much, that's a big market. And it's a market that's already pretty well tapped by the rest of the ag industry, but organic is underserved in that market channel. So USDA is looking at making progress there. They're also investing $200 million in a national organic transition program to provide organic farmers with the technical assistance and support that they need to transition. So the work that California is doing at the state level will be complemented at the federal level and probably made permanent in the next farm bill as Congress is also looking at investing in organic transition and technical assistance. So I will stop there. I've probably gone way over my time, and I'm open to answering any questions.
Great. Thank you all for great presentations. And I just wanted to highlight that, as mentioned earlier, AB 2499 is intended to make it easier for under-resourced farmers to transition to organic. And we are excited about this bill because it helps farmers who face barriers access new markets and grow their business. And it helps more farmers adopt practices that make them resilient to climate change. And so, as Leticia mentioned earlier, we have a fact sheet shared in the chat with more information. And now I want to make sure that we have some time to ask questions of the panelists. So I'm going to pass it back to Leticia.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much for your fascinating presentation. So we do have a question here. What are like the top crops or products that have the most opportunities for California farmers? So any panelist, feel free to unmute. We could even everyone could say what the crop or product they feel most excited about has most opportunity.
I could go first. Yeah, I think it's more about what is it you want to grow? What does your site want to grow? What is your climate and your microclimate and your ecology suited to grow? I think that's been mentioned many times. A huge opportunity is health and institutional systems that are buying pretty much 100% conventional produce. There's programs in Alameda County called Food is Medicine and a Food Pharmacy, where organic produce is being prescribed by MDs and subsidized through healthcare, Kaiser, et cetera, and mostly focused around fighting type 2 diabetes. I mean, type 2 alone, I think, is 140 billion a year the US spends on, and it's pretty much food and climate related. And organic agriculture solves for both. So I think it's more about it's everything. You know, there's definitely shortages in things like avocados, which also is related to a water issue. But with climate change, avocado growers are moving further up the coast and into even Watsonville in the Bay Area. There's figs is a big shortage. It's, you know, there's sort of overproduction cycles within ag and produce specifically. So you're thinking like a lot of wet veg, broccoli, lettuce, cauliflowers, those are often rotation crops for things like carrots that take 180 days, or potatoes that are also long cycles. So I think it's more about finding specific markets than what it is we're not growing, because we have an amazing climate, we have great soil, and as Ernesto said, we're showing now that the yields are higher in organic, the quality is higher in organic, the flavor is higher, which is your built-in nutrient density meter. You have them, your senses. So I think it's about shifting to just simply going to institutional markets is really, really open for us, and getting the infrastructures built and the aggregators like Coke and trucking, the I-5 is horrible, and cold storage, and, simplifying food safety so that growers can understand it and they're not mired in bureaucracy. Those are a few places.
Yes, if I can maybe jump in there as well. So I would certainly agree and even expand kind of on what Jonathan said here. So the importance is not so much to focus on one category, because the issue is, and what I was trying to get across, is that you can actually create that value added. And that would mean that you get a better price as compared to commodities. So it's not so much, we've seen in the pandemic, berries have done really well. Lettuce have done really well, citrus has done really well, but where you really have these increased prices if you add something. And so that is really the advertising and marketing. Otherwise, this gets competed away along the supply chain. And so you really want to differentiate your product and think about where you're providing it. So really good access, as Jonathan said, is actually through institutional buyers, and it might allow you to create a brand through institutions. So you want to make sure that your consumers find you and find kind of your differentiation and uniqueness, because that's going to allow you to actually have a little bit more room and benefit from all this added value. Otherwise, that gets competed away by these really complex supply chains. And the farmers' margins haven't increased that dramatically, even so the price that the consumers is paying is increasing. So, and it's a question of how we translate that back to the farmer so that the farmer are more successful.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I just want to say, for folks that need to jump, please feel free to go if you need to. We will be sharing a recording of this, but I do want to give any of the other panelists a chance to jump in here and answer this question as well.
So one area that I'm personally excited about, and I think is a huge opportunity for California, is the growth and sort of recent consumer trend around natural wine. So we're seeing a lot of biodynamic wines, organic wines, and this is a trend kind of globally. And obviously the Europeans are our primary competition when it comes to natural wines, but I do think that there's a lot of opportunity for California in that specific category.
Actually, I'll also add, I believe CCOF now is certifying cannabis to the NOP standard, even though it's still federally recognized as a Schedule 1. A lot of these growers have developed living soil systems that bring out essentially flavors that garner a premium, that have been applied over time to natural wine and all specialty produce. We know that the healthier the soil, you're going to have more diverse microbes that lead into, the phenols, the flavonoids, all the minerality that brings on the appearance, the shelf life, the flavor, and then the nutrition for us. And I think getting in rotations, with the cannabis growers, so they're growing other things at the other time of the year, supporting their diversity with harvestable commodities, or doing more permanent crops, or tree fruits, that kind of thing, even grain up in, all over the Northern California.
Yeah, I just, this is the number one question that comes through all our growers that come through our doors. And as Jonathan said, it's really concentrate on what you do best, consistency in what your soil does. I mean, sandy soil, heavy soil, loamy soil, anything, just concentrate on what your soil does best. And it's all cyclical. I mean, I think everybody, I hate to beat a dead horse on this one, but it's cyclical. Like when I first started at Coke, strawberries were on their decline. And then it took like 5 years, and now they're coming back up again. And then they're going to go down. Celery was, a few years ago, was at the peak of the market, and the last couple of years has been declining. So it's just that human back and forth where we tend to oversupply, undersupply markets. So, I mean, optimal would be if we could all agree to just grow specific amounts as our customers need it. That'd be great. But, you know, I think really it's just paying attention to what you do best and grow that.
Beautiful. Leaving us with some wise words. Thank you so much. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists. We've come up to the end of our time here today, short and sweet. Thank you so much for sharing and bringing your experiences to the table here and helping us learn more about the organic marketplace. Please download the fact sheets that are in the chat. Feel free to contact us if you have any other questions or more information, and we'll be happy to connect you with the panelists as well. And have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.